right, and we are live. I'm gonna really quickly rename the title of our newest video.
Oh, you figure out how to do that now?
Well, I can edit it as we're live, which is definitely not the optimal way of running this show. But we're getting better out here. We're at 114 subs, which is
pretty legit, guys.
That is actually pretty cool. Thank you guys so much for kind of making this happen. I know that this has been a journey for us as well as
it's been a struggle.
Yeah, I mean, for people who don't know, when we started doing this was just us and a webcam, and so to kind of be now where we're at.
And it is still just us
and a webcam.
So it's not like much has changed in our
It's
lives.
better though. It's definitely better.
Okay, I believe that.
Live.
Ooh, you can change it. See, all right.
See, we're getting better.
This is high tech right
Let's
here.
Go.
We're talking AI today.
Simulation.
So we gotta be on game now.
Living in the simulation. That's not right.
All right, I'm just going to start talking now while he's working on this. All right, guys, today, 7-Eleven, if you get delivery, it's $1 pizzas, large pizzas from 7-Eleven, just so everyone knows. If you're also trying to come over tonight at 7 and have pizzas at my place, we're just going to buy as many as they let us order and then just freeze whatever we don't eat. So, yeah, anyone out, just get the 7-Eleven Go app. You get 3 deliveries for free, and you get $1 pizzas today, so
That's awesome.
Just so everyone knows, it's pizza day today. So, happy pizza day.
I think I changed it. It says all changes saved.
Cool. Let me shut it down real quick and then turn it back on.
You'll be our confirmation. The stream health looks good.
Yeah, I'm the technology guy today.
That's definitely true.
All right, let's see. Oh, look, we're live. Oh, and we got it.
The title's up?
Yep, album of the year.
All right, perfect. Nice. So, welcome to another episode of The Kids Table. This is an episode with just me and Peter Windus. As if you guys haven't noticed, Max isn't here, and because he's not here, we can do all the things that he hates that we do, like complimenting.
Max literally shuts down 90% of our ideas.
Yeah, so for example, whenever we compliment him, he gets really mad.
Yep.
So I think we should start this off by complimenting.
Give him some compliments.
Yeah. So we're huge. At least I'm a huge Max Nelson fan.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and he's funny. I know he doesn't like when we say he's funny, but
he is really funny. Even if he's not trying to be funny, he's a really funny guy. And I think he adds a lot to our show. That being said, I'm really excited for this episode personally because when the inception of this podcast came out, the idea was that we would be able to kind of talk about ideas as well as showcasing talent, which is what we've been doing recently. We've had Max on, we've had Trey on, we've had Bella on. And it's been really fun to kind of showcase their story. And that's something that I think is really important for us on the Kids Table.
Yeah.
I think you would agree with that. But I also think it's a good time to take a deep breath, bring it back, talk about some stuff, and really get into it and not worry as much about showcasing talent.
We got Max in the chat right now.
Hey, Max, it's good to see you.
He is active.
Nice
to see you, man.
Well, maybe we have a couple watchers, so... And if you guys haven't, let me just put this up right here for all you go. Boom! So if you guys don't know already, we are now officially on SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. And we have an Instagram page. So all of those links are there. iTunes is coming soon, but it takes a little longer to get verified on...
they're kind of bitchy about it.
Yeah, it takes a week.
No, Spotify's done a good job with that, letting some user content upload. So big shout outs to Spotify. And also big shout outs to Julia Dale.
Yes.
Julia, whenever you're watching this, thank you. Julia Dale made our logo. So
she did make our logo,
Make sure to go check that out. It's exactly what we wanted.
So and please follow us on Instagram and follow us on Spotify. I think the next big goal for us is to upgrade our audio. And I think that'll be happening within the next couple weeks. So, although I do love the video and the live aspect of it, getting good content up on Spotify and on SoundCloud is kind of my big priority right now, and eventually iTunes.
I agree, yeah.
So yeah, please hit us with that. Follow us on SoundCloud, follow us on Spotify. If you haven't, but we have 114. like subs on YouTube.
That's more people than I know.
Yeah, like you've already subbed to the kids table by now. So,
but give a shout out to someone who you think would like this. Everyone knows at least one person who would like this. Yeah. So just go out and grab us one sub.
And another thing that I've been working on, and I think we should probably just call it out on air, if you have an interesting story and you have something that you want to showcase, something you want to plug, and you think that we would have a fun time talking about it on the kids table, please DM us on Instagram. Our Instagram is right there on the lower right hand corner. And we'd love to have you on. We'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, link up, have a conversation.
All right, and expect some dope highlights from this conversation. I will be editing the final project.
For sure.
All right, let's get into it. So, I have a funny thing happened to me today.
All right.
And I have specifically not told you what happened to me because I wanted you to react to this live.
Yeah, we gotta get for the fans. They need it.
I think it's a funny story. You might not. I think it's funny. So I'm driving home from school, right? And
hilarious, yeah.
I know. So far, so good, right? This is already and. For you guys who don't know, no one knows this. I drive with earbuds in, so dangerous. Definitely not. I don't recommend it. But I don't have I don't have an aux cord in my car. Mm-hmm. So if I want to listen to music, I have to put my earbuds in.
Yeah, real quick, Chuck McFarlane, if you're watching, he's joking right now. He doesn't do that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not doing that.
Because this is just a funny story.
Yeah,
just
and
joke.
I'm pretty sure Chuck insures me.
Yeah.
So
you don't know.
Yeah,
no, we're joking.
No.
Okay, continue.
I'm driving home from school and I'm stopped at a light about to go up Queen Anne Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked some in the car. Right, I'm driving in the car. And I kind of just look over to my right because I'm stopped, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I see a car and it looks a little out of place for me. It's not like an obvious car, but it's like there's a car there. It looks kind of official looking. There's some gadgets on it to make it look like that it's not just a regular average person's car.
All right. Is it American made?
I think it might have been American made. Right. Yeah. So it's Ford American made. Ford's American made, right? Yeah, it's American
for sure.
Made. So I'm in my car and I realize it's a police car.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Those cops only drive American made cars. Yeah. If you ever see a car at nighttime that's not American, it's not a cop. For sure. I mean, show me next time we're out and you see a cop car that's not American. Let me know.
I'll let you know.
I've never been let down.
I'll let you know. So I'm like, oh crap, that's a cop right next to me, and I have my earbuds in.
Yep.
Shouldn't be doing that, right?
Yep.
And so, but I'm like, yo, he definitely is aware of my presence, right? So I can't just rip out my headphones because that would be way too obvious, right?
Yeah.
So what I do is I kind of do a little
nice, yeah. When you're adjusting your
hair, and I take the things out. And I'm like, dude, that was so good. I think I got him, right?
Yeah.
So I look over, just took a glance. Cop looks at me, points at me, and he smiles. I just be like, dude, I know what you were doing, and I go, oh my god, hands over my face. I was so embarrassed. Thankfully, he did not pull me over. He didn't ticket me. He didn't even give me a stern warning. Light turned green and we drove our separate ways.
That's
I went pretty quickly after he was out of sight because I was so embarrassed.
Yeah.
But it was so funny because he looked at me, smiled at me, and he pointed just to say, "Yo, you fucker! I know what you were doing."
Yeah, you ain't slick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a funny story that happened to me today on my way to come record this episode, and so hopefully that they didn't write down my plates or anything. That would be a bummer to get a $50 ticket in the mail.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
that's a good time for sure.
Yeah, that's my intro topic for today. A funny story about how I got pulled over by the cops.
Yeah, well, you didn't get pulled over.
It
was a little anticlimactic.
Yeah, that was. I don't know. I disagree. I think the whole hey, you bitch. I know what you were doing.
It was good. It was good.
I thought that was so funny. Okay.
We're getting a question from Nadine. She said, "Did you learn your lesson?"
So that's a great question, right?
Are you gonna still? Did you put your earbuds back in?
Yeah.
Okay, so you did not even finish the drive.
I definitely.
You had 5 minutes to get back home, and you put them back in.
Yeah, I definitely put my earbuds back in.
So no lesson learned.
Not really.
That's really the moral of the story.
Yeah.
If you get away with it, you don't gotta change what you're doing.
Yeah, I definitely did not learn my lesson, but I think I like to think that it's one of those things that. If I get pulled over for it and I have to pay a ticket, I won't be mad about it.
Yeah, you kind of deserve.
I'll be like, yeah, I deserve that.
It's the risk you're willing to take.
It is, and I've been doing it for a while, and nothing really bad has happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
I got called in when I was working one time.
Yeah.
But other than that, that was when I had headphones on though.
That's such a Queen Anne thing to do.
Oh my god!
Call the manager. Yeah.
Dude, they have nothing else to do. People in Queen Anne have nothing else to do, so they just make my life difficult. Do you want to get into our first topic?
Let's do it.
So. I go through these moments in my life where I get especially when I'm by myself doing something, right? And I think that I'm a passionate person.
I'd say that.
So when I like find something, I really get into it, right? Like it really becomes a thing that I want to do. And so I was listening to some music the other day.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of hit with a wave of emotion. And I texted you immediately, and I was like, yo, man, like, this music is incredible. This album should be album of the year. Yeah. This artist should win producer of the year.
Yep.
Maybe artist of the year.
Okay.
Doubt it will happen, right?
Uh-huh.
We'll get in. So, long story short, that person was Kanye West.
Okay, yeah. Well, you listen to...
Well, so this is where I'm going with this. My favorite album of the year was not a Kanye West album, and I do plan on having a whole episode of this talking just about Kanye West.
Cool.
That's coming soon. The album that I was listening to, let's see if I can pull this up. What? No. Yeah, there we go. Was Daytona. So for those of you, because we have to remember we have a Spotify and a SoundCloud and an iTunes audience now. So for those of you who can't see what we're seeing on the screen, you're seeing the album cover for Pusha T's new Daytona album. And it's a 7-track album, as is consistent with the rest of what the Good Music crew has been doing with Tiana, with Designer apparently.
Everyone forgets about the Designer one.
Can't forget about Designer, Kanye and the Kid Seaghosts. So
and Nas,
that's right. This album is not going to get talked about enough.
No.
It got a lot of attention from the Pusha T thing, or from the Pusha T Drake beef.
Yeah.
But in terms of musical quality, there is not a song on here that I dislike.
No, 7 songs, every single one of them, both production and bars and features, everything about it is awesome.
So I was thinking maybe to start this off, you could kind of explain the origins of this really sick album cover that we're looking at. And you might want to describe it to the people who can't see it.
All right, so essentially it's like a trashed bathroom. And I don't know, sort of in the edges you can see the sort of like picture's been degraded and the whole thing just looks like super messy. And so essentially it's Whitney Houston's bathroom, correct?
Yeah.
All right, and so I know with that is Pusha T wanted the rights to the picture, but it was like out of his budget.
Wasn't it 60 grand?
It was something like 50, 60 grand.
Yeah.
But he showed it to Kanye, and Kanye was just like, all right, let's just buy it. And so, Kanye made it happen for him, and I think it goes well with the album.
Because that's the world they live in, right?
Yeah.
Where they have money to spend 60 grand on an album cover.
For sure.
But, I mean, how do you feel about the album?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Pusha T definitely, until this year, was very underappreciated.
Very.
And, I mean, he has, he's gotten recognition, I guess, now for his sort of back and forth with Drake. But really, before that, he should have been in the headlines before that.
Way before.
And he really hasn't been. Like, he showed up to my school last year, actually, for the spring. They had, like, a, end of the year sort of college, and it's a free festival. And so, they bring, like, 5 or 6 people. It's, like, a whole day. Most of them pretty small name acts, but the final 2 were Rich the Kid and then Pusha T. And so we show up, like, it's long, so we're trying to guess, but we don't want to miss Pusha T. So we show up, it's like pretty early into Rich the Kid's set, and Rich the Kid's set's pretty short, because he got like Plug Walk and New Freezer, and like, he played like 3 other songs no one cared about. So those, of course, were fun. Plug Walk, New Freezer, good times. And then people just like start leaving. And it's like, what? Yeah. And, people just like, people are like, all right, it's just Pusha T next. And people like knew who Pusha T was, but they're like, what songs does he have? And this was also before Daytona.
Pre-Daytona,
but like,
right?
What songs does he have? And then people just started leaving.
Dude, that makes me so mad.
And then suddenly it's like he's playing like Mercy, New God Flow, Don't Like. He's just playing like back to back, and he would like just play like the chorus and then his verse for each off of, essentially all these are off of Cruel Summer, which is the Good Music mixtape. So I think most people know Mercy and Don't Like.
Yeah.
And so he just, back to back all those, and then a bunch other of his stuff.
Did he play Trouble on My Mind with Tyler the Creator?
He did. I don't think he really played feature verses.
I don't think you're legally allowed to, are you?
You're allowed to. I think it's really more, you own the rights to the song. And so sometimes, I've been around and people have done that. Yeah. But it is kind of just weird when, especially if that's like the most popular verse on the song.
Yeah.
it's like, I get not wanting to cut it because that's the part people know.
Yeah.
But then also it's like, what are you supposed to be doing during it? And it's like just playing in the background. So it's a bit weird, but like he didn't play all of the Good Music album, but he played like just his parts, and he did play the choruses though, because you can't play Mercy and not play the chorus like on both ends, because everyone loves Mercy.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's a good
But
point.
the energy level was ridiculous, and it was one of my favorite, because there was no seats. You just push up to the front. I saw Jules Wilson there. He was like front row.
Yeah.
Just wild out for like 30 minutes. Just destroyed my shoes, and great free concert for
sure.
Dude,
he's so cool. Like, he is so cool. And I love his story about how he recorded Daytona, where he brought all of it. Because so for people who don't know, Kanye West's music label is called Good Music. That's Kanye West, that's Pusha T, Chief Keef, no, not Chief Keef, but Designer, Tiana Taylor.
Yeah.
Who else is really big on him right now? Is that
Big Sean?
Big Sean
is still affiliated with them, I believe.
Yeah.
And then they work closely with a lot of other people.
They work closely with 2 Chainz. I don't think 2 Chainz.
2 Chainz isn't on there,
but they work closely with him.
Yeah.
So, but for people who don't know, Pusha T is actually the president of Good Music. So,
because essentially Kanye didn't have time to run the label.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, first off, he's doing his music.
Yeah.
And he does producing for so many other people.
Yeah.
And he's doing the whole Yeezy line. You see, he's doing a lot of
things. He's so busy.
And so essentially, Pusha T, like, he still is making music.
Yeah.
But he's also kind of running the label from the business side. So.
And so, yeah, so obvious. Like, the reason why I bring that up is because that's why he hasn't put out a lot of music since, I think, 2015. That's why it took, or maybe it might have even been 2014, before his last album came out. So the story is he brought all of his music to Kanye, and he's like, yo, these are my verses, these are my beats, like, this is how I want to do it. And Kanye goes, yo, I really like it, but I think we can do better.
Yep.
And I was listening to his interview in preparation for this episode of the Kids Table that we're recording right now.
Which interview was it?
The Breakfast Club one, and I think the Budden one as well.
The Budden one's great.
And so what basically happened, Kanye goes, yo, let's go to Utah. And so there's 2 different locations. So before you correct me and say that they go to Wyoming, Pusha T made a big point of mentioning how they went to Utah first.
Okay.
And so you can probably give a little exposition to this, but they go to this crazy expensive resort in Utah. Crazy expensive. And they're at this resort for about a week, where Kanye every day is just listening to samples and not making a single beat.
I believe it, yeah.
And Pusha T says he's spending $10 grand a day to be, because it's 20 grand a day, but Kanye and Pusha T are splitting it.
Yeah.
So Pusha T is spending 10 grand a day
just for Kanye to sit around listening to features. Yeah.
Yeah, and Pusha T is like, yo, like, I know how to conserve my money. I'm really good at taking the money I have and putting it away and not spending it all in
really
one place.
Good use, yeah.
Yeah. So this was freaking me out. Right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what he's saying. And so we're gonna get into the track list in a second here, but they ended up in a week in Utah, getting 1 beat.
Yeah.
And it was The Games We Play, which is coincidentally my favorite beat on the album.
Okay, I can see that.
But so they go, and then they pack it up.
Yep.
They go back to do some other things. I think Pusha T had to do some shows. Kanye was doing some stuff for Tiana's album.
Yep.
They come back and they meet in Wyoming.
Yep.
And they do the same thing over again.
Yeah.
Crazy expensive resort. Kanye just listening to sample after sample after sample. So, anything you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, I think that definitely works well for Kanye.
Yeah.
Because he is extremely sample driven. He heavily features, especially a lot of vocals, but a lot of what he does is really kind of taking something that he really likes out of a sample and some really unique and cool sample and then working it into the songs he creates.
Yeah.
But that is a very time intensive process, and like Pusha T was worried, extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And so I think 2 things off of that is, first off, Kanye can sell enough albums to recoup that.
Yeah.
But as much as I love this Pusha T album, it does nowhere near Kanye's numbers.
Not even close.
At all.
Not even close.
And so, when you're spending 60 grand on an album cover because Kanye decides he likes it, and you're racking up $10K, you know, on all this stuff. It's getting really expensive to make this album. And it's just, I'm a little curious on, I love the outcome of it, but whether or not, you know, Pusha T's a businessman, and his job actually is to run good music.
No.
Kanye doesn't give a shit how much the music costs. He's just going to get out there and he's going to make the best thing possible.
Yeah.
Which is great, but if you're not able to recoup that cost, I can see why Pusha T's worried about it, because he really is, in this situation, the businessman.
Yeah.
I think Kanye has a lot of business acumen, but when it comes to music, he is just, the money doesn't matter to him, and that's why he put Pusha T in charge of it. And so I would be curious to look at the books and see, like, was this a good financial investment for them? And I'm guessing just because of all the press they've gotten from the Drake beef.
Do you think the answer is yes?
I think yes, but that might not be because of all of this spending. So I love the outcome, but it may not have been the best financial decision.
And for the record, I don't think we're legally allowed to play the songs.
No.
But
there may be something about 30-second samples.
Yeah.
We'll need to look into that at some point. And also, we don't know how to stream across.
Don't tell them that.
We're not that tech savvy yet.
All right. So let me just do this really quick. Resize.
All right.
Look at that. All right. So,
high tech.
We're out here. All right. So for those of you who aren't watching this live stream right now, aren't watching it on YouTube, I just pulled up the 7-track set list for the album. And do you want to one by one go into these songs? Do you want to start us off with If You Know, You Know?
Yeah, you have listened to it more recently than me. If you were listening to it
I listen to this album constantly. Like I
Okay.
probably listen to one or two of these songs at least once a day.
Okay, for sure.
Again, it is what I would if I had one vote, one ticket, and they said, Dustin, you get to put your ticket in this jar.
Yeah, for one vote.
And of all the albums you've listened to this year, what is your favorite album? My ticket would go in the Daytona box.
I love If You Know, You Know. I think it's a great intro.
Yeah.
With all it comes in with the super hard pianos.
Yeah.
And he's very aggressive he definitely has just a very aggressive style.
Yeah.
And I think he did a good job, maybe just because of the Kanye beats on it, but making his music kind of accessible and catchy while still he hasn't gone pop, and that's something that I'm a fan of. He's kept his music and his flow and his sound and his image.
Yeah.
This really authentic version of himself, and that's something that I'm pretty impressed by. So.
Yeah. And what I like about If You Know, You Know, it's the first song on the album, and it starts out with just a really quick, repetitive snare drum and just his voice. There's no... So the first, 30 seconds of it, there's no beat besides this really light snare drum. It might even be, No, I think it's I take that back. It's a really light hi-hat.
Okay.
So it's someone just really lightly tapping on this hi-hat. And then after 30 seconds, the beat hits, and then everything just blows up after this 30-second, and it's such a good way to start off his album.
For sure.
Getting into the second track, this is my favorite track on the album. This is The Games We Play. If you guys are listening to this and you've never heard the album, and there's one, you're like, okay, look, I only got time for one song. Listen to this song. If you like this one, that'll be...
You'll like the
entire album. Super, super hard, somewhat poppy beat, kind of, but it's a lot more of an anthem song, kind of more similar to what you used to get, in my opinion, 4 years ago with rap, where there was anthem after anthem after anthem coming out, and it was less kind of melodic rap. Really, really catchy beat, really repetitive chorus that you can sing the words to. That's what how do you feel about it?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely very catchy, and it's just it's Pusha T doing his thing. I'm a big fan of it.
And then we're coming into Hard Piano, Comeback Baby, and Santeria. So these three, I think...
Boom.
Yeah.
Solid middle chunk.
Yeah.
Out of those three, I'd say Santeria is the standout for me. I'm a big fan.
Santeria's pretty good.
Just, I don't know, it's very hard hitting.
Yeah, it is really...
I don't know, just the way he does the chorus and the flow. I'm a big fan of. I think it's very cool.
It is really cool. I also love the Rick Ross verse on Hard Piano.
Oh, for sure. Rick Ross is great.
Yeah. Again, watching this interview this morning, Pusha T essentially said that the reason why Ross is on... Because if you guys can tell, who is looking at the track list, and for those of you who haven't seen the album and aren't looking at the track list we have up right now, there's only two features on this entire 7-track album, and so that's the third song on the album is called Hard Piano with Rick Ross, and the 6th song is called What Would Meek Do with Kanye. We'll get into that one. But Pusha essentially said that whenever he needs a verse, he knows he can ask Rick Ross to do a verse.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't need to worry about it. Like, he knows it's going to be good. He knows it's going to be exactly what he wants, and he has so much faith in Rick Ross to put it on a good verse. And, I mean, based on the body of work that Rick Ross put on this track,
yeah,
I would totally agree with that.
For sure, yeah. I mean, he's a very solid feature.
Yeah.
And he obviously has the work ethic and the acumen and sort of style to fit into something like a Pusha T album very easily.
And what he does really well, and I think a lot of people don't have this ability, and this is going to sound like a slight to Rick Ross, but it's not. Ross is really good at being on a feature. It's not his song.
Yeah.
Right? He is complimenting what Pusha T is doing. He's offering his little take on it, but it's still Pusha T's song.
I think Rick Ross is great at like promoting other artists and really trying to kind of raise up the sort of influence and quality of hip-hop music overall. You see that in his label. He's very strong pushing for like Wale or whoever else is on
Meek Mill.
Meek Mill. Yeah, he's very big on pushing his artists and also being featured. Just like, I don't know, there's some people who sign other artists and it seems like, oh, they're trying to grab feature. They're trying to hop on someone's feature to make the song big. And it seems like Rick Ross never does that. It's really, he's really about sort of collaboration and actually working with people. And when you're being a feature on someone's song, I mean, yes, you want to have the best verse on it, but that's different from like, I'm going to be the center of the attention and this is my song.
Exactly.
And so he's very good at that, I think.
And then so going into song 6, we have What Would Meek Do. The reason why I felt like we should take this one aside is because when Kanye comes in on this one, he actually drops his like poop diddy scoop thing.
Oh, it's great.
But it works.
Oh, for sure.
And it's cool.
Yeah.
As opposed to Lift Yourself, where you had this amazing beat.
That's probably my favorite, just
isn't that hilarious?
Straight instrumental of this entire year.
It's so funny. Like the beat and the production of Lift Yourself is so insane.
Well, and that's why he did it. He gets you so engrossed into just this immaculate and super lush and layered beat, and then just goes completely left field with it, and it's great. And then the way he ties it back in a way that he's joking around and kind of like, you know, he's making a joke about something he's done and not taking it super seriously. It actually does fit into the track, and it doesn't take away from, I would say, a very serious album
and I like
song.
I like how you added that it complements the theme of the track. That's he's not putting it in there just to put it in there. It really does fit in with what Pusha T has been laying down, and it doesn't shift that much from the song, and it does make you laugh at the same time. Well, it's actually kind of serious.
Yeah, well, if you didn't know the original song, if you didn't know Lift Yourself, it wouldn't be funny. It would actually blend in smoothly, and so that's why I like it, because it didn't feel forced.
100%.
And for people who didn't know the reference, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's not for you. Yeah, and then ending it, we could have a whole podcast about this one. But Infrared, I mean, you can just take that one.
So Infrared, again, a great song. I think it closes very well.
Very well.
It really fits the theme of the album. Pretty introspective, but also it does have some kind of subliminal shots at Drake. Very clearly aimed at Drake, especially. Drake had made some comments about Pusha T's fiance. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he's saying, hey, if you call out my fiance by her name, I'm coming for you, that sort of thing. And it sort of didn't start this beef with Drake, but really was sort of the initiation for this back and forth they had this year.
100%.
Which was something I thought was pretty fun. So
yeah,
I don't want to get into it too much, but
again, we could talk a whole...
Yeah, so he kind of comes at Drake, and it definitely is what got the most attention on the album.
Yeah.
And which was definitely good for him.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't have left it out. But it is sort of, when you mention Daytona, people think about the Drake and Pusha T beef.
Yeah.
He's the one who's beefing with Drake. So that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'd say that is the one sort of unfortunate consequence of it. Is it did kind of just take a huge amount of media, but that was the goal, was to get a huge amount of media.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a trade-off for me.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because I was in class today,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's always asking me when the new episode of The Kids Table is coming out, right?
Mm-hmm.
115 subs.
Yeah.
Follow us on Spotify. But and I was like, oh, it's coming out today, and we're actually going to be talking about how I think Daytona was, the album of the year, and they were like, what's Daytona?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, well, it's the new Pusha T album.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny that you say that, because this kid goes, oh, isn't that the one where he was like beefing with Drake? And I was like, well, yeah, but
this beef has gone back further than Drake's career. It started out as a Pusha T Lil Wayne beef, like back in 06. No, this has been around. Like Pusha T has been a staple of the hip hop music community for longer than Drake has been making music.
Yeah, and something that Pusha T is very open about is he's like, all I'm trying to do at this point is I'm trying to please my core fans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to branch out. He was like, it looks really fun when I see all these new rappers getting on the melodic rap thing, but I'm not gonna do that.
I think he's not in it for financial reasons. He's running good music as a business, and he's not, he's not trying to make a flop.
Yeah.
But his goal is not like pop hits or gaining fans.
Yeah.
It really is, he has something he's really good at, and he's very well respected for. And he's going to do it as well as possible. Yeah. And I think that's something he does get a lot of respect for among, people who know what he does.
Yeah, and he's also just he's a real person, right? You can tell when you watch his interviews, when you listen to his songs, like, he's very real, which is such a rare quality in celebrities, because, they're all media trained. They're all trying to constantly increase their fan base, right? And, so someone like Ariana Grande, right? Like, when you watch her talk, you're not watching her talk. Or, that's not true. You're not watching her think. You're watching words come out of her mouth that have been grilled into her.
There's media trained, and so even if they, I would at least like to think, for the most part, they are saying things they believe. But it is definitely, there's a lot of premeditation to it, and it's being said in the most, politically correct way it can be said, and it's very thought out, which is good in a lot of scenarios. And it's not that Pusha T just says reckless shit all the time without thinking, but it's very clear that he comes prepared to interviews, but he's not reading off of a script or saying lines that he's been told to.
And he's very comfortable with going into a lot of stuff that could be uncomfortable for a lot of other people.
Yeah, he is very open, which is cool as well.
He's very down talking about the Drake stuff. He's really open to talking about stuff that he disagrees with Kanye about. He said that when Kanye kind of was like, yo, we should make all these 7-track albums. Yeah. Pusha T had a bunch of other songs that he wanted to put on an album, and Kanye was like, no, I think 7 is a really good number. And I agree with Kanye, because we've been getting these 20-track, 30-track albums recently, and it's really nice to have just 7 clean songs.
And I can see why it's hard to do and frustrating for an artist, but that's part of that sort of editing process, in that not that the other songs should never be released, but if you're trying to make a cohesive project that is very tight and focused on a specific topic especially, then being really brutal with cutting out filler, I think, is something that is definitely a trend that's not popular at the moment, and very cool to see.
Man, if you haven't listened to Daytona, please check it out. I'm definitely not getting paid to promote this. I genuinely just love this album, and it's been, I know, come January 1st, when Spotify drops that, here's your Christmas basket of these are all the songs you listen to. This was your number one album, number one song. The album came out slightly more recently, but I'm very confident that Daytona is going to be the number one album that I've been listening to this year.
For sure. Yeah, I believe it. We had been asked about explaining the beef between the two, but I think that's a bit of a longer discussion, and that's
part
part
of
what...
give a synapse?
Sure. Very basic summary. It was kind of a, Pharrell and Lil Wayne got into this weird argument about like who started wearing Bape first, which is this like Japanese streetwear company, and like Lil Wayne went on the cover of Rolling Stone or Complex or someone wearing a Bape hoodie, and so then Pharrell was like childhood friends with Pusha T, who Pusha T was part of a music group called Clips. It was a duo, and so they released a song called Mr. Me Too, which Pharrell produced, talking about how people, are copying their style and, oh yeah, me too, kind of, they set the trends and people copy it.
Yeah.
And then Lil Wayne got into a beef with that, and it sort of carried down to Drake. Is the very basic lineup of it. But actually, interestingly, I saw a Meek Mill freestyle he did like 3-4 days ago, I think. And he talked about his Drake beef and how they've squashed it. And he did a freestyle over Back to Back, which is the Drake song.
Yeah.
And they went straight into someone put Mr. Me Too on. And he said what he said was it's a bit of a slower beat, and he says skip it. I want some real rap shit. No, he just talked about squashing the beef, and the radio station put on a song that's essentially like, yo, rap on this Pusha T beat, just that like originally was this Lil Wayne and not Drake at the time, but it's sort of been carried on to Drake. And I think Meek Mill did do a good job at sort of sidestepping and diverting that.
That's a smart
It's kind
move.
of an interesting. When I saw it at first, I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
And then he skipped it, and I was like, "That makes a lot of sense, actually, because you just talked about how you squashed your beef."
When he's out of jail,
Exactly. So that's the basics of the beef. I mean, it's been going on for so long. It's kind of that thing where when like they think they don't like you, you think you don't like them, and then suddenly everything gets taken in the wrong context.
Yeah.
So
and then really, really briefly, Pusha T is obviously like everyone else is right now making fun of Drake for not writing some of his verses.
Oh, for sure. When you got beef with someone, and then, something like that comes out, you just clown them for it.
And then people are getting personal. But what I will say is, on wrapping this up on this interview, Pusha T makes fun of Birdman. He really disses Birdman in the Infrared track. Birdman is also known as Baby, for anyone who doesn't know. So if you hear people making fun of Baby in rap songs, that is referring to Birdman. And Pusha T was explaining that he ran into Birdman in an elevator recently. Like,
Birdman's scary.
And Birdman runs with like 20 guys.
Always,
And Pusha T is very adamant about it. He's like, I literally am always by myself.
Yeah.
Like, I do not have a security team. I don't have, like, goons that hang out with me and follow me.
Yeah.
He's like, it's literally just me. And so I'm on this elevator, and Birdman and all 20 of his homies come into this elevator. And, like, it's a known dislike between them. And I guess Birdman said the most Birdman thing, and he goes, "What's Bracken?" and Pusha T goes, "Nah, man, we're all good." and he goes, "You good?" and then Pusha T goes, "I'm fantastic."
I love that. They're both at least. Birdman just kind of scary.
He's a really
for
scary
sure, and
dude.
I love Pusha T. Just keeps it real.
And then Pusha T's like, "Yep, I went up my 6 floors on the elevator
and got out.
And I got out of the elevator."
Smart.
And so it's like, like, although there is this known beef, it's not like it's like every time they see each other.
No,
it's
for
a
sure.
fist. It's just like Pusha T says,
I think it sort of just festered for a while.
Oh, definitely.
And then, he starts making some jabs at the ghostwriting stuff, and it kind of escalated from there. So.
And then the way he closed it was he was saying, "Look, man, like, it's all music, and I also know that, like, he's just a person."
For sure,
you know, like,
and so that's why I think Pusha T did get a bit upset when he brought his fiance in.
Yeah.
Because at least by his code, that takes it from business to personal. When he's saying, you don't write your raps, and he's spitting bars about that, he's talking about the business and the music side.
Yeah.
When someone brings in the fiance, then suddenly it gets personal, which I don't have. I think, when you're beefing with someone, you got to hit hard.
In music especially.
Right? And I might, but at least by Pusha T's code and sort of his rules, when you're just talking about the music and the way you move and that whole sort of thing, he's not going to take it personally. But the second you make it personal, he's really going in on you, and so that's really. I think Drake just didn't realize that's a line that was which I probably I don't have as big of an issue.
Dude, Drake's so big. Like, it's not like he has time to like plan all of this out. Like, I think
he has people for it, but that's just
dude, like you're gonna make some mistakes when you have this many eyeballs on you and that many mouths to feed.
For sure,
yeah. And for anyone who's like really interested in kind of what we're talking about, if this is like, oh, this is really cool, I want to learn more about this, what you should do is first go to Spotify and follow The Kids Table.
Yep, that'll help.
You're going to have to go to podcast, The Kids Table, see all, and then it's down there because we're a new podcast.
Yeah. We could put it on Instagram, though, probably.
Yeah.
That'd be smart.
But also look up some of the tracks, the diss tracks that were released back and forth between Pusha T and Drake. The story of Adidon.
I don't think that's on Spotify, though.
I think it's on WorldStar or SoundCloud, though.
All right, yeah.
And then
it's definitely on YouTube. Though,
yeah, so. Don't put these in Spotify. Just Google them. And then the other one is the Duppy Freestyle.
Duppy Freestyle.
And that was Drake's response to the initial Pusha T Infrared diss. And then the story of Adidon is Pusha T's response to Drake's response. That was kind of confusing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
Sweet.
Cool.
So let's get that out of there, and let's go on to topic 2.
Topic 2. Let's do it.
So I think we're gonna get into AI now.
All right.
Do you wanna?
No, you preface this.
Yeah,
this is your topic.
That's fair. So I've been reading a book. I just finished.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, I know. First.
No, we're intellectuals here. We're intellectuals
like kids. It was
right.
Green Eggs and Ham.
Yep. Okay.
And not only are we intellectuals, but we also know chicks.
Well, those are two defining features, I would say,
of the Kids Table. Yeah. We know a little less chicks now because Max isn't here right now.
Yeah, Max brings a good amount of chicks.
But we still have a fair amount of chicks that we know.
All right. Fair.
And so I was reading this book called Big Tech, and it's just the way technology is going to look in 2050.
Okay.
And it was insane, blowing my mind with every page. And a big chunk of the book was about AI.
Okay.
And how AI isn't something anymore that's like in the distant future.
Mm-hmm.
Like AI is here. AI it's still in the early stages of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a real thing. And I think the perfect example of this is a machine called AlphaGo became the first machine to beat the Grand Master of Go, the best player in the world of a game called Go, which is I don't want to get it wrong, but it's either a Japanese or a Chinese board game, which is, if you had to compare it to something, you could compare it to chess.
Okay.
But it's
strategy-based board game.
Really extreme strategy. Mm-hmm. And while chess can be, the optimal strategy in chess can be coded because there's, a finite number of moves, that there are an exponentially higher of possible moves in Go than there are in chess. So they say it's impossible to create an optimal strategy just by brute force coding.
Okay.
So basically what happens is this AI learns as it goes at a very quick rate.
So it just essentially plays itself
over and over.
So it plays both sides and just figures out how to get better and better and better at
exactly.
it. Mm-hmm.
And so AlphaGo beat the world champion. Mm-hmm. And then they made another version of Go. I don't know the name of it, but it beat AlphaGo 100% of the time.
Okay, yeah.
So that's kind of the speed at where stuff is going right now.
Yeah, and also with that, I know you sent me a Elon Musk interview where he mentioned this, and what he said about this second AlphaGo 2 machine learning, it wasn't just that it could learn this game Go, it was if you input the rules for any board game, it could learn it well enough to beat anyone at it. So it's not just that this is one machine that is able to be really good at this one specific board game that I'd never heard of. Yeah. It's that it also can win in, chess or whatever. If you're able to define the parameters of the problem for it, essentially, it can run it over and over again and find that optimal. So it actually is a pretty versatile product, not just kind of a cool trick.
It's not. Yeah. It's not a gimmick. This is a real thing. It's really happening, and a lot of people are really rightfully scared of this, and I'm definitely one of them. I think within 50 years, we're gonna be given the option to have AI be a part of our life somehow. And I mean, it's entirely possible that we could have this AI inside of us, meaning in our brain. Yeah. So it's called. And I don't know how. I mean, there's so many things to unpack there, like legal ramifications, religious ramifications, right?
For sure.
But the thing, and a key point that Musk especially makes, is right now, and since ever, human innovation has been creating without really regard for if what we're creating is going to have a positive or negative effect on the world.
Yeah.
It's just like, how do you put out the best possible thing in the shortest amount of time, and then how do you constantly strive to make it better and better and better and better? And Elon Musk, if you guys don't know who he is,
they know who he is.
Do something.
They know who
he is. Figure
Continue.
something out. Open a book, pick up your phone. And he thinks that this is the number one threat to humanity. And he thinks we are building AI at a rate that we cannot control it. And once it's a kind of Pandora's box. Once it's opened, we can't get this thing back in the box.
Yeah.
And the main point where I'm going with this is, if you look at regulations like seatbelts, it took a really long time for seatbelts to come into place. And a lot of people had to die before like regulators came in and insisted that seatbelts existed, because the auto industry fought it really, really hard.
For sure. I want to give a big shout out to Volvo right now. They didn't invent the seatbelt, but they were the first to implement it in all their cars. They also did the same with like automatic braking, anti-lock braking. A lot of sort of very big, the windshields that when they crack they don't shatter, they just split, like a lot of different
shout out Volvo.
They're really on the cutting edge of like not always inventing this safety devices, but really making them standard in their cars
and implementing them.
Yeah, so I think they were the first to make all their cars do the automatic braking as well, just so you know, some more recent things. But yeah, no, seatbelts is one of the first ones they were big on at first. And so big shout out to this.
Yeah, huge shout out to Volvo. Hopefully Volvo doesn't put AI in their cars.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, they probably will. And so I am not the judge of whether or not this is a good idea, but it would be very, very smart to have substantial regulations already put in place by the time this kind of hits the common marketplace. And that's not going to happen because no one understands it, because
it's too quick. Yeah,
we don't know what it can do. And so by the time we comprehend it enough to put regulation on it, it's not going to be possible to stop this ever-learning, ever-growing machine.
And I think that's true with a lot of cutting-edge technologies. Yeah. I think a lot of people have said the same thing about Bitcoin, in that it should have been regulated from the start, but people didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And so whether or not it should have been regulated or should be regulated more closely now is up for debate. But it is something that by the time it is perfected and, becomes mainstream at such a quick rate that you see new technologies at these days, it is very hard to like close the box.
Yeah. Well, and especially like, sure, let's say let's talk Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin was a thing; it existed. But like, if people really wanted to, they could have come in and been like, "We're stopping this," right? There would have been probably a lot of outcry and public lashback to it. But if they really wanted to, the government probably could have came in and probably or at least made it very, very difficult for people to buy, sell, and trade Bitcoin, right? AI is a thinking thing that grows and learns as it progresses through its like quote unquote lifespan, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot harder to shut down a constantly evolving product, and it's essentially a brain that is so much better than a human brain that
not at the moment, but that's the goal.
But
yes,
and
it'll happen soon,
very soon, within 50 years. So the question is, what do we do? And would you think this would be a good thing to even put on the marketplace without substantial regulation?
I think regulations definitely are needed. There's a lot of criticisms about regulations, and especially over-regulation, which is something, Elon Musk has touched on when talking about, because he definitely is overall pretty anti-regulation.
Yeah.
And this is sort of his big no, hold on, we actually need this one because it's super important. And so I think there is there's regulations on a couple issues. And at least the most concerning would be this sort of overarching, what can bad people do with technology that's smarter than humans?
Yeah.
But also just there's a lot of decision making that AIs make, and I think the decisions they come to are dependent on the people who are writing that initial code and deciding like what the goal of AI is. And so, there should be some sort of, not even nefarious sort of intentions with it, but there are either unintended consequences or just like moral gray areas that I think do need some sort of regulation. I think the best example of this would be actually looking at driverless cars and the safety involved in those. And so, what Elon Musk has said is he says by next year, this sort of self-driving parts of the Tesla will help decrease crashes by 200 to 300%. And so, even if it's not perfect, something like 35,000 people in America die every year from car crashes.
Yeah.
And so if you can make something that, it might fuck up every now and then, but compared to a human is doing great, that is a good thing.
Yeah.
But there are decisions that need to be made within that, especially when you're looking at sort of like not avoiding a crash, but minimizing damage. And so I think sort of the classic is if the car is about to, crash into the big truck in front of it, and it can swerve, but the only way it can swerve, hits a group of pedestrians on the side. There is that sort of moral dilemma in that it saves the driver of the car, who's the owner of the technology, but it might, deciding how you value life, that's a very subjective thing, and to just write a hard code in that, like, young people are worth this much and blah, blah, and all the way down is sort of, I think that's probably the more pressing sort of, if you're just letting each car company decide the morality of, when in safety, it's really minimizing human loss.
Yeah.
And to make AI for that, you really have to like quantify how much losses are worth.
And what loss is.
Exactly.
Right?
And so I can definitely see, you just want to minimize the number of deaths.
Yeah.
But I also understand if I buy a car and it's driving, I want this car to protect me.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of the flip sides of both of those. And so, I don't know if it should be up to, some small group of people to decide that. And so I think there's a whole range of, from like sort of apocalyptic sort of worst case scenario of AI all the way down to decisions they're going to need to make every day.
No.
And just who the AI makes those decisions, but they are still at the essence being guided by some principles, even if they're making the decisions on how to come to the outcome. They've been given, what their goal is, and I think there does need to be some sort of regulations on, what it's doing and how it comes to those decisions, and also just how safe it is. I don't want AI driving cars without regulations on what they can do, because at that point, even if Tesla or Volvo or whoever's doing it great, some other company that's selling cars might not be doing it great. And so I think, there needs to be regulation, and if you're advertising it, especially as a safety device, I think you need some regulations to actually back up that it is safe. So
you just said a bunch of really good things. Two specifically that I want to unpack. The first one being that anyone who is kind of freaked out about the headlines you see in the news with self-driving Uber car kills a person, I know it was a big one, right? It is true that there are going to be imperfections with these self-driving and autonomous vehicles, but what people don't understand is that these things don't need to be perfect. They just need to be substantially better than humans, and they are currently substantially better than humans. And then you take that fact. Autonomous cars are something that if everyone used right now, traffic deaths would be substantially smaller. It's going to take time for everyone to catch on to that.
Well, I think two things is first, there is sort of, it is definitely better, but there is a sort of complacency right now. Like a little while ago, there was someone who was asleep in their Tesla. And the Tesla, it can't make the decisions on where to drive and when to change lanes and stuff. But even if you're on a slightly curving road, it can stay within the lanes and adjust the speeds with the cars in front and back of you. And so the person fell asleep, and it took them like 2 miles to pull the guy over. Because, the police are like honking at him, trying to wake him up sort of thing. They got great sound insulation, that whole sort of thing. And so, at least for now, like, people definitely still need to know how to drive and need to be alert within cars.
Yeah.
But they are definitely safer now. So.
Well, and that person asleep at the wheel for 2 miles, that's a little spooky and definitely a big, like, you know, judgment lapse and just a stupidity move on his part. But he also is alive and no one was hurt, right?
Exactly, which is great. But the thing is with that, if someone was hurt, the liability is on him.
Yeah.
Because, you know...
He fell asleep at the wheel.
Exactly. Yeah. But if in the future... You know, if right now everything went to self-driving cars, there'd be a lot of benefits. You know, cut down on road deaths. There wouldn't be drunk driving. You know, a lot of very good things. But the crashes that do happen, suddenly all the liability is on the car manufacturers. Yeah. And so that's why they are very... Because first off, you get horrible press. When one Uber car, you know, has an accident that injures a person or kills a person or whatever, any sort of
headlines.
Makes national headlines. And so even if it's safer, this whole sort of it's out of my control, so it's scary. I definitely understand.
Yeah.
But then also, you know, if all the liability is on the manufacturer of it, they're not selling it to people until they are sure that it's going to work up to whatever very high standard they have in place. So,
yeah. Well, also, and again, you keep saying things that I want to talk about. The reason why people are scared of autonomous vehicles is because they can't control them, right? So that's why people aren't typically scared of driving to work every morning, but there are a lot of people who are afraid of getting on a plane.
Yeah.
When you're statistically exponentially safer on a plane than you would be on the ground driving to work every morning, people are a lot more comfortable with the reality that they can control. So you can control your car. You can have your hands on the wheel. You turn left, your car will go left, as opposed to, it doesn't matter what you do with your body when you're on a plane.
Yeah.
There's a pilot there, right? Who has an autopilot that's probably, you know, made by Tesla or something, right? And then the other thing you said that I wanted to unpack was kind of about how, geez, man, I'm totally blanking now. What was that? Oh, man. Well, I can't really think of it, and you said way too many things.
I brought up this, like in the most recent section, I brought up safety and then liability were my two concerns about it.
I mean, it is a good point that when an Uber car does crash, it does make national headlines, and I do think that that's a little unfair.
For sure, but it does make sense. I mean, new technology is always scary.
Yeah.
And when, you know, people have these fears already, when something like that happens, it sort of confirms those fears and worries. So,
yeah, that's a really good point. And we're kind of shifting away from AI a little bit.
Yeah, well, because I think we both agree on the driverless cars issue. But really more the issue, like the more the worry people have is that when you start, like this Pandora's box, you know, that's a great use for AI. But people, you know, first off, there is security issues with if everyone's driving cars controlled by like something on the cloud and someone gets a hold of that. That's a security risk. And then also just far beyond car. You know, there's plenty of uses for AI that, you know, it is a tool, and so it can be used for good things, but there's no, like, it can be used to play games and drive cars, but really more the concern, especially for someone like Elon Musk, isn't the small stuff, isn't the liabilities, isn't...
He's a macro thinker.
Exactly.
I remember what I was going to say. So, when we're talking about, when we're programming this AI, what is its goal, right? Yeah. And the common answer to that by the layman such as myself would be, well, it should just be to maximize human happiness, right? It would never turn against humans and kill a bunch of humans if the goal was, you know, human happiness.
Yeah.
So, the response to that by people who are a lot smarter than me is, okay, if you have this AI in your body and it's in your brain, what it will do is it'll just hit chemicals and just release constant streams of dopamine and serotonin. Because then you would be happy chemically.
Well, because the issue is you need to define its goal.
Yeah,
because no one knows what happiness is.
Exactly. And
it's different for different people.
Yeah.
And so you can't just make a super fucking smart robot and tell it to make everyone to be happy. There is not only ethics involved in the decisions it makes, but also just values in general. And it is, you know, like no one decision makes everyone happy.
100%.
Ever. And so that's the difficult part, is who is making the decisions about what it should be used for, and then also who could use the technology being developed for issues, or once something's created, people can use it for whatever they want.
Yeah, 100%, and that's why Musk's kind of big counterpoint and what he thinks the goal of AI should be is to maximize humanity's potential to choose. So if we have that free choice, then it's a very hard line for an AI to kind of get control over the human population, which I think is kind of the big fear that everyone's worried about. It's like, if we let this thing that's way smarter than us out of this Pandora's box that we can't stop, like, will we be able to find some way of stopping it or catching it? And the answer, if we don't set it up the right way, is probably no.
And I think that's funny, because I think that's a very human way of thinking about things, in that humans in general, kind of human nature, when you get enough of them, when people start gaining power, they start like exploiting it and using it to control others.
Yeah.
But that's not like a inherent thing in nature.
No.
I mean, there are different groups, but this whole sort of idea that technology is inherently going to try to take over us, I think it's maybe, that's just what humans do, but it's also humans are the one writing the code. And so if you think about artificial intelligence as you're trying to make something that's smarter than a human, you're going to make something that's as human as possible, and then make it better and faster in every way.
Yeah.
And at that point, you just have a human that's better at everything than everyone. And that is something that's very scary to think of. And so it's really, you don't want a better human, I don't think, because humans are shitty. Like,
very.
And you can't, especially if you have a bunch of different people making different AI, even if a lot of them are doing good stuff, there's just bad things are going to happen because of it. And so it's difficult in that, there's what the humans do to set up artificial intelligence, and then also just what it's going to do, the unintended consequences of afterwards.
Man, you really brought it today.
Thank you.
I really wanted to get into, living in this simulation, which is something that I do believe in.
All right.
So, but I don't think we have time for that today. And I think we're gonna have to wait till the next episode.
Yeah, that's fine. I got actually one more quick question for you. So you've been reading this book about what life is going to look like in 2050.
Read this book.
Okay, read this. You finished it.
Cool.
So what technology is going to look like in 2050?
Yeah.
And you've got a bunch of mind-blowing stuff in it. But if you think about books that were written 30 years ago about what technology would look like today, the majority of them aren't going to be that accurate. In a lot of ways, we've surpassed what people expected tremendously.
Yeah.
But also, something like flying cars, it seems like have been 20 years away since like the 50s. And so I think people are very bad at projecting, especially with something like technology where growth and change is accelerating so quickly. And so I guess just like out of all this, super cool, mind-blowing stuff you've read, like, at least in my opinion, a lot of it either isn't going to happen or is going to look lame in 2050.
That's super fair. The point of this book is that it's technology that already exists. So what this author isn't doing is he's not like conceptualizing stuff
new
that
technology
could possibly exist. He's a writer for The Economist. So he basically spends a lot of his time going around to existing firms and seeing like what is already on the marketplace. So the cool thing about this book, it wasn't like, this is totally possible. It's like, oh no, like, VR and AR are real things that have already existed and currently exist. It's kind of like a main point of the book is stuff like the Fitbit. That is now very commonplace among humans. Started off as kind of like a geeky trend where you can monitor every single vital of your body on a little watch. And so a lot of these things first take popularity within like techie people before they a small fraction of the techie stuff comes into the mainstream. So your point is 100% correct, and like maybe half of the technologies that they talk about in the book will not make it, right? But they do exist, whether or not they become popularized or not.
All right, very cool.
Yeah. Man, well, thanks you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of The Kids Table. We're so excited that we have a growing base, and it's really cool to watch people actually interact and enjoy this.
For sure, and we had some great viewership today. Good numbers.
That's awesome to hear. Please follow us on Instagram. Please follow us on SoundCloud and on Spotify. I know it's really hard sometimes to pull up a whole YouTube video and keep YouTube up, so we're really trying to make this more accessible for the viewers who may be in a car, might not have the data, or might just need to have their phone turned off and listening through some.
Yeah, so a lot of streaming options, and then the clips is definitely we're getting some.
So please comment what you think, and please DM us on Instagram if you have an interesting story that you want to tell. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.